That's cute.
And we're live.
And we are live. What's up, boys and girls? Welcome to tonight's rendition of Dieting and Donuts with Jared and
your co-host
Grant. So
tonight's topic, we are going to be talking about different strength training modalities for different goals, and then we're going to do a how extensive of a Q&A is this? It's
a little bit erratic, just all over the place. Yeah. So for those of you guys who are just now tuning in or watching the replay and don't know what the fuck is going on, my name is Jared Hamilton. This is Grant motherfucking Kasinik, and this is our weekly show, Dieting and Donuts, because we teach people how to diet while enjoying things like donuts and ice cream and cookies and cakes and their favorite foods and being a normal flipping person while achieving the body of their dreams. So that's what we're here to do.
And on top of that, we are both coaches and personal trainers.
Truth.
Trying to help people make the best of themselves.
Yes. But otherwise, that's what we're talking about tonight. The three big ones we were talking about tonight are training for fat loss, basically, and training for muscle growth. But then we want to do a short Q&A, and I've got some shit saved. So
yeah, and then another thing, we'll because we'll probably have people come in and out throughout the night. We'll try to pop in and say to ask questions throughout. But if you guys don't have any questions for the Q&A, we'll we've already got a lot of stuff.
So. Oh yeah, we got some saved. So
yeah, well, you want to start us off? So I say, since you're kind of like the fat loss guru, why don't we start off with training for fat loss?
Okay, so here's the thing you guys have to understand. In the world of training as a whole, like most people make this part way too complicated. It really doesn't have to be that big of a thing. But here's the magic when it comes to fat loss. You're going to get way more bang for your buck working bigger, more compound movements that are using more of you at once.
Define compound movements.
So compound movement would be something that involves multiple joints and or multiple muscle groups.
So for like example, that would be like staying away from like machines and things like that.
Not necessarily. And it's not that I think people take this one too far. And it's not that isolation exercises, I'm like, no, those are bad. Don't do them. But especially with the goal of fat loss, I don't think they should be the majority. So for example, a compound movement would be a back row. Lots of muscles and lots of joints involved. Squats, overhead presses. Those are all compound movements because they work a lot of you at once.
Right.
An isolation exercise would be a lateral raise. One muscle, one joint. A bicep curl. One muscle, one joint. Because think of it this way. Even like right now, for those of you watching, do this. Go do a set of walking lunges. Chances are within 10 reps, your heart rate is increased and you're breathing heavier and you might already be feeling warmer. Now do 10 bicep curls. More than likely, your heart rate isn't increased. You aren't out of breath and you aren't very warm. It just to give you guys a little bit of an example, because what happens is not that bicep curls and shoulder flies and calf raises are bad, but one thing that allows in the world of fat loss to really help the goals that you're working with and to get the most bang for your buck is having the majority of what you're doing work more of you at once. Because if the goal with fat loss is taking or burn more calories than what you consume, you're going to stimulate more muscle tissue. You're going to burn more calories and use more of you at once, because there's no such thing as a toning exercise or a defining exercise. And there's no such thing as spot or fat removal. Like I can do all the tricep extensions I want, but my tricep fat is not burning. You're going to burn more calories as a whole doing things like upper body splits, lower body splits, total body splits, pushing days, pulling days, doing mostly, let's say 80 to 90% bigger, more compound movements.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was going to say that I entirely agree with you in terms of doing more compound movements and things like that. And then you kind of already segued into the next thing that I was going to have us talk about is like, what you should do in terms of splits. And I was going to say that, you would generally speaking, stay away from like things like an arm day or just a back day.
And I was want to spend some time talking about that because a lot of people, the one I see a lot, and I'm sure you do too, is a lot of people are doing a lot of like arm day, shoulder day, chest day, back day, like a very bro style bodybuilding split. And the goal is fat loss. Like I've seen and I don't mean this disrespectfully at all. I've seen people who are trying to lose like 80, 90, 100 pounds, and they have an arm day and they have a shoulder day and they have a chest day. But like, that's not, unless you get so much enjoyment out of it that it might allow some merit, because some people just love arm day, love shoulder day. And just from an enjoyment side and sustainability, there may be some merit, but from like getting you to lose as much fat as quickly and sustainably as possible, you should not be doing arm day, shoulder day, chest day.
And I think the big takeaway here with that is, it's not like doing an arm day is necessarily bad, but if we want to talk about optimizing,
it's not conducive for fat loss,
right? So you can lose weight doing bicep curls, isolation bicep curls, but if you want to do it in an optimal fashion, you would never do that.
Right. Well, I mean, think of it this way. Like, let's actually put some like real estate on the table. 1 second. Okay. Let's say, here's a good example. This is the size of your bicep, my iPhone. Let's say you have arm day. This is the size of that's about right. Like, yeah, it's about the size of a bicep.
Take mild offense to that, but
the bicep muscle is not very big. The shoulder muscle is not very big. Whatever, not very big. Okay, we're going to put this right here. This is your lat. Which do you think contracting for sets of 8 to 10, 8 to 12, whatever, is going to burn more calories? Your bicep or your lat? Your shoulder, your legs?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah,
ding.
exactly. This is what's going to utilize more of you and burn more calories as a whole. Because that's the thing is you can do bicep curls and tricep extensions, superset fashion, whatever, till you're blue in the face, but you're not going to burn very many calories in that workout. You're not going to stimulate the biggest, baddest, most parts of you.
Right. And so I can already foresee someone saying, well, Jared, well, if I don't have an arm day, I'm never going to work my biceps. Right.
False.
And that's false. So whenever you're doing, let's just say just a mid row on a hammer strength, right?
Yep, just a mid
So
row.
you're going to be using a lot of different muscles, predominantly your back, but guess what? You cannot completely isolate your back. You will always use a little bit of bicep. So it's not like you're completely neglecting your arms by not doing an arm day. You're just not focusing predominantly on that muscle.
Well, but here's the other thing too with it. I think people forget about is I think most people destroy themselves with volume when it's not needed. Because the goal, I would argue, the goal is to use less volume if possible.
Remy agrees.
Yeah, the goal is to use less volume if possible to accomplish the same goal. Just because there's less inflammation, there's less oxidative stress, there's less repair time. And that's the other thing is I see a lot of people doing arm days for the goal of fat loss, and they're trying to be at the gym 5 days a week, but their arms are sore for 4 days because they spent an hour-long training session doing curls and extensions, or your delt is this big. And then they'll spend an hour and a half doing shoulder presses, lateral raises, rear delt pec deck, rear delt machine. Sorry. Whereas people are over voluming these little bits. Cause let's say you did a 4-day week split. Let's just give some examples. Let's say you were doing a bro split, chest day, back day, arm, shoulder day,
and
leg day, or chest and tries, back and bis, legs and shoulders.
Yeah.
Very much a bro split. Then let's compare those same 4 days if you did upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. When you're alternating upper, lower, you're going to have way less recovery time because instead of focusing a full hour-long session on one single muscle group, you're spending a whole hour-long session on your entire upper body. So you're stimulating more with less volume. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so just to kind of recap. So, if you were designing a program for fat loss, you would want to shy away from doing an arm day. You want to focus on bigger compound movements. So you would want to do things like push-pull legs, upper body, lower body, things of that nature. And then I think we should probably go a little bit more in depth. So we've what kind of exercises you should be doing. We've got what kind of splits you should be doing. And then I think the big one that a lot of people get tripped up on is let's talk about sets, or not sets, rep ranges. Okay, go ahead. So now, and I kind of want to know your opinion on this. So if you go online and you read a book, a lot of times what it's going to say is 1 to 4 reps, you're going heavier. That's going to be your more strength, anywhere from 5 to 8 to 10 is going to be your
hypertrophy.
And then anything past that is going to be more like muscular endurance. So how would you, knowing those three things, what would you go about in terms of like, for your push day, what would you do in terms of like, rep ranges for your given compound exercises?
Sure. So there's a lot of different ways to go about this part. And this part is where we're getting really tedious on this part. Here's the thing. There's a time and place for all rep ranges. It's not one of those things where like, if you hit the 6 to 8 rep range, you're going to blow up and get stupid big. Or if all you do is hit 8 to 10 reps, you're not going to just look like a fucking bodybuilder.
Right.
All rep ranges have different times and places. And I think it really is goal dependent,
So now with that, I generally have my people go anywhere from like kind of the sweet spot is like 8 to 12 for me.
Mm-hmm.
And now do you ever do like, so I try to follow the 70-30 or 80-20 rule. And basically you never, just because you don't want to injure yourself, you never want to always do heavy only, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would never want to make an entire day's lifting just all like
3 reps.
1 to 4 range, you're giving maximum effort, super heavy weight. You would never want to do that.
Sure.
Number one, that's not going to be really conducive to your goals. Even if you are going for like strength, you never want to just do heavy. Number one, it's not the best. And number two, you're going to really increase your risk of getting injured doing that. Mm-hmm. But, it's not good to necessarily only do like 12 plus reps. It's good to have a variety of everything.
Well, and I think this is one of the benefits of phasing. Like a lot of times, so one thing that I'll do when I start coaching somebody, one of the first things I'll do is I don't go nuts on rep ranges. Very often when I start working with someone I've never met before, everything is 10 to 15 reps, 10 to 12 reps.
Right.
Everything, every single exercise. Because the nice thing with having that 10 to 12, 10 to 15 rep range, in my opinion, is it's a pretty good balance of load being moved, but also a little bit more. There's some endurance, muscular endurance involved. Because if you only hit 1 to 4 reps, there's no muscular endurance. You're good for 4 reps. With that being said, you're using really heavy weight, so there may be a chance of injury. Versus, let's say, I don't know this person that just starts working with me, so I'm not going to have them fucking max out every day,
right,
or at all right now. But I don't want them just hitting sets of 25 where like there's no load. Hitting 25 reps, it's like not heavy at all. It's why it's a balance. But a lot of times when I work with people, I like to go in phasing. Whereas in the beginning, we might hit that 10 to 15 rep range, do that for 4 to 8 weeks, 6 weeks. And then when the next training phase, we might, depending on how it goes and depending on what the client's enjoyment is, might drop that rep range down. They might love it. I know some ladies, dude, that just love fucking lifting heavy.
It's kind of funny. Most of the women that I work with, they actually prefer doing the heavier. And
a
lot of the guys actually like doing more of like the 8 to 10.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people like marry a rep range. They're like, oh no, if I do everything I do has to be 15 reps or everything I have to do has to be 4 reps versus there's benefits to doing all rep ranges because your body adapts to stimuluses over time.
Right. So now whenever I do phasing, I will never start, and I don't think anyone ever should. Like there would never be a reason, especially if you've never been in a weight room before, you would never want to do anything heavy. You would never want to do something where you're doing 1 to 4 reps and that's like the most that you could do.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
So like typically why you want to do, like a longer period of more, kind of intermediate to high rep ranges is to establish that neurological connection so that, your body knows like when you're doing this, that you're actually supposed to be contracting.
Right. Well, and on top of that, it's also putting a little bit of stress on your tendons and ligaments, which are never going to be as strong as your muscle belly.
Right.
A lot of people will get into the weight room and they've never trained before, and their muscles aren't what gets sore. It's their tendons and ligaments and attachment points, origins and insertions that get torn up. Like someone will get in the weight room and the next day their elbows just hurt, their shoulders just hurt, their fucking knees just hurt. Because they've never had a stimulus before because they went in there and did like sets of 6 versus starting off with your rep ranges a little bit higher in the beginning. It can really help from the neurological standpoint, but also from like introducing stress to ligaments and tendons. It can help a lot too.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you definitely want to ease your body into it. You would never want to, it's just like anything. You would always want to work your way up to it. And, for this, you would never work your way up to it by starting off super heavy.
I think also that goes with also failure training.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone has to go till complete and utter destroying of their tissue. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there's a time and a place for it, but I don't think every person needs to go till failure completely, especially in the beginning.
Oh, I would actually. So, and that's another thing that I do with a lot of my people. So, like starting off, the first, 2-3 months, a lot of the times I'll say, okay, I want you to do 8 to 10 reps, but I want it so that, you're probably have like 1 or 2 reps left in the tank by the time you're done with this.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And that's just so, you're recovering, you're not going to be, super sore. You're not going to, increase your risk of injury by pushing yourself too hard. There are a lot of reasons for doing that.
I can't remember if I sent it to you or not. I think Alan Aragon just came out with a new research review about failure training and some more data on that.
I'm totally based on what the conclusion of that was. It was not what you were thinking. It was like that training to failure was actually not conducive to.
Or like I can't remember. I haven't read all of it because he's got some pretty dope ass research reviews. But but yeah, I think it's along those lines where basically you don't have to go to failure on every single thing.
Right.
But then again, some people argue what's the definition of failure training. Some people mean mechanically. Some people mean neurologically. Some people mean just total mentally.
Right.
So like, what's failure training? Just mechanically, the mechanics break down.
Yeah.
Or like neurologically, then you're doing like swinging reps for days, and it's like mechanically failure. You failed like 20 reps ago, but now you're just something's happened neurologically. But then it's like mentally, it's like no, my brain literally said stop or you're gonna die.
Right. So I mean, do we want to transition into training for now? Did we say for strength or for hypertrophy?
We just said training for just muscle gaining as a whole.
Okay, muscle gaining. So I would say whenever you do this. So this is kind of where you would start to branch off. And again, I would never say to start off by doing like, you would never want to do like an arm day or, just a back day, like initially, even if your goals are to, just put on tissue. But once you go through that initial phase, then you can actually start getting into the, quote unquote bro splits.
See, I actually think there are very few places to do a bro split.
Really?
Based on
okay, why?
So based on the experts I study and the newer data coming out, very rarely like am I seeing a lot of places to have arm day, chest day, shoulder day, because most people don't need that crazy amount of volume for stimulus. One of the experts I study, Jordan Peters, talks about like literally until you've been training like a motherfucker for a decade, you don't need to do a bro split. Like he'll make that kind of statement.
Really?
Yeah. From like, so like for, because most people overdo volume and underuse frequency to stimulate hypertrophy, because most people just straight overkill themselves with volume. So instead of doing chest day, arm day, shoulder day, you could get away with, let's say, like an upper body day, or like, let's say you're pairing muscles together where you work. A lot of people could get away with working, like let's say a muscle 3 times a week with the proper stimulus volume ratio, where you're not over voluming,
right?
Because all you're doing is the goal is to coax the muscle into growth, not beat it into submission with volume until it is forced to grow.
Right.
And I guess that's the whole hypothesis, so to speak. But because almost every anymore, the ones that I look up to and study, they're like almost all of them are like, get rid of the bro split completely.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest with you.
I think a lot of people are emotionally tied to the bro split. I just think because that's what Arnold did. I think that's what everyone in the gym does. I think there's an acceptance part of it. Everyone does chest day on Monday. Everyone does arm day. And I think there's a fun aspect to it. I think it's fun coming and hammering out 7 chest exercises or doing 10 arm exercises or whatever. But if we're talking about optimally training for the goal of hypertrophy, I would totally agree with it.
So then if you were kind of like looking at that from like, because obviously if you were doing that, you wouldn't be able to. So, okay. So then let's we'll come back to that. So what would you say is like, in terms of once you're in there and actually working out, I mean, what do you think is the best way to train? I mean, are you just trying to do like, more time under tension? Are you trying to train to failure? Are you trying to just induce a lot of like, mechanical stress, mechanical damage, a lot of like, are you just trying to pump blood in? Like what's your goal whenever you're like actually in there doing stuff?
With the goal of just gaining tissue?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lot of things. I think it's, excuse me. I think a lot of it is using the muscle mechanically in different ranges where things are shortened range emphasized, lengthened range emphasized, and a lot in the mid length or the mid emphasized. I think a lot of it has to do with like there's time under tension. I'm not saying bust down a stopwatch and like every set is X many seconds.
Right.
But I think, I mean, at the end of the day, everything is slow, it's controlled, it's mechanically, it's damaging the tissue, but not so far. I don't think someone should be sore for multiple days in a row, or anything like that. And then there's the question ultimately comes to like, okay, then what is the appropriate volume? And I've yet to get a single person to say I think everyone's different. I think everyone's response is different, but I don't think there is a magic volume button.
Right.
Like I know some people who do program, like my coach programs a lot of 2 sets, 3 sets. Back in the day, dude, I used to do 5 sets of like everything. I know back in the day, you used to do like 18 sets at this angle, 18 sets at this angle, 18 sets at this angle. But I think it comes down to like, especially over the course of like, let's say 3 years, the amount of like, doing like a bro split, there's so much excess volume, inflammation, and oxidative stress that's just not needed to cause the same result.
See, now I would almost and I guess it just depends, because like when I think about, like let's just like look at the back as a whole, right? I think that, if you were to do like the quote unquote bro split, like back and bicep training for one day, I think that it would be exceptionally hard to like kind of put yourself in the point where kind of like why you were saying that you should do like, a more, full body type of thing. Because like with that, I mean, like if you think about the back, I mean, you've got your latch, like there's just so much to train. And then you throw in like biceps on top of that. I don't think that you're going to be taxing any one part of your muscle to the point where you would not, because is that kind of what you're saying, like why you would want to go more down the other route?
Well, and I'm not saying just do like total body every day by any means, but I don't think it's one needs to spend like an hour and a half on their shoulders, like for example, stuff like that. Like I think I think, and this is this is something that I believe, that I first heard this from a few of the experts that I studied, that they said, and it resonated with me. I think a lot of people overuse volume because their execution is poor enough. They have to compensate with excess volume to cause growth. No,
I would agree.
Versus like let's say you see someone that just their form sucks or it's not perfect.
Right.
Well, if your form isn't perfect, you don't just throw more volume on the shit form, because that's not going to do anything other than cause inflammation of the joint, oxidative stress, and tissue damage. But versus like being way more, having a higher standard with each rep to the extent that it should be, and then taking each of those reps a little bit further. I would say there's more value in training till failure than adding copious amounts of sets.
I would agree with that.
Because I think a lot of people overuse. I think volume is severely overused as a stimulus.
Right.
Because then let's say you kill yourself with volume out the gate. What are you going to do when like you hit a plateau or it's time to ramp things up? But if you're already doing 5 or 6 sets, what are you going to do? Add 10? And then I think it's almost like there's a point of no return, so to speak.
Sure.
But I don't know. That's just my current. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but that's just based on the data, the way that I understand stuff. That's the way that I currently believe with it.
That's interesting.
Do we have a first disagreement?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think like anecdotally whenever I've shit, dude, that's weird. I've been going on like, I think I'm on like almost 4-5 years training. Yeah. That's crazy to me. And because I've tried a wide variety of things, and at least personally, I think that I get the most out of doing more like an arm day. Now be that, and then again, we get into the, like what on paper, like what the research says is the most optimal versus what's the most, beneficial to you.
And then throw enjoyment into that. And all
right. Because, like for me, like I personally don't, and that's kind of why I went back to this, because like I didn't like getting in there and doing a more like, push day, pull day, legs, like, and it's probably not necessarily to say that in terms of like, muscle growth, it probably was maybe even better doing that. But from an enjoyment standpoint, I definitely did not enjoy doing it like that. Like
Sure.
I really liked getting in there, getting creative, doing, random shit with my arms.
Mhm.
Um,
And I think there's a lot of value in that, because if at the end of the day, if you hate what you're doing, it's not sustainable. But then again, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think if you have a optimal split you hate, that's not optimal. But if you have a split you love, that's not optimal. Extremes that are wrong.
right.
I think there needs to be a combination. Like I'll see people, like I said, that are doing, someone that wants to lose 100 pounds and they have arm day and shoulder day, and they only do arms and shoulders. They never do legs. They never do back. They only do arms and shoulders because they just want toned arms and shoulders.
Right.
And that's what they love doing. Okay, they're going to be 100 pounds overweight for a long fucking time
Yeah.
because it's not optimal for the goal they want.
Right.
But don't go to the one extreme where if I said, okay, do 20 hours or 20 hours, 2 hours of burpees a day, maximum calorie burning, 2 hours of burpees a day. Like, okay, I'm not saying go do that, but like that's a little bit too extreme in that front. There's a balance in both. That's why, like, one of my girls I'm coaching right now, we just recently started coaching her, and I started her split design, all that stuff, and some of her favorite exercises, I just, in the way that I program design, they weren't in there. Like I didn't have like a quad extension. I didn't have this one type of deadlift, and I didn't have this one other exercise. Not that they're bad, but like with the goals she had, some of these weren't quite as optimal, but she found massive enjoyment with them.
Right.
So throwing like subbing in those 3 exercises
Because of enjoyment.
Yeah, like instead of doing RDLs, Romanian deadlifts, we may have done off the floor deadlifts. Instead of doing a leg press, may have been subbed out with a quad extension because she loves quad extensions. Like, I think there's value in that at a nice balance, not like sacrificing the quality of the program for the sake of fun,
So let's say just because I'm kind of curious. So like, let's say that you have someone that comes on with you and they well, okay. I mean, so talk about like with one of your competitors, like Colin. I mean, he was probably, well, that's probably a bad example because he was probably doing what, 6 days a week. So like if someone came to you and they're like, I want to put on size, give me a 5-day split. What would you how would you go about that?
I would try to work all of those muscles as many times as possible during the week under perfect recovery.
So now, because now I've actually seen.
So let's say 2 to 3 times every muscle group.
Okay.
Mostly 2, except for like let's say if there's a stubborn body part, if you will, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Because you can't just have everything stubborn and you do a total body split every day.
Right.
You're not going to have enough stimulus, or you're not going to be able to go deep enough in that stimulus to make the recovery time happen to where you do that every single day. But like with Colin, I had a program where he was doing like, let's say chest. He was doing chest 3 days a week. Now, if we had one hella chest day, he couldn't have trained it 3 days a week.
Right.
Because he'd fucking take him 6 days to recover from the one day versus drop that volume down, up the frequency. He was able to train chest 3 days a week. And guess what came in one of his strongest body parts? His chest.
Right.
So I think a lot of people, like I said, overuse volume and underuse frequency as a stimulus. Because it's the same thing. I also believe for building strength. It's like if someone says, Grant, I want my squat up. The best thing to do, in my opinion, would be get them squatting as many times per week as possible under perfect recovery. So it's probably going to be 2 to 3 days a week squatting, actually getting under a bar.
Right.
I think that concept is overly complicated in the world of periodization.
Let's see. And he's a PhD in something, but so his big thing is, and he's like IFBB, like Natural Pro, or no, what's the Natural League?
NPC? No. I mean, I don't know.
Well, whatever the pro natural, he's that, and he's a smart guy. He's PhD, but his thing is like, so he only does full body. So he does full body training 6 days a week, and he has copious amounts of research to support that. But he gets like super intricate where like you at most can have like an RPE of like 6 to 7, but you're doing like, and to me, and that's kind of why I like doing the more like bro split to an extent, is just because like, let's say that is the most optimal. When you get down to the intricacies of like, okay, everything you need to do is an RPE of 6.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, at the end of the day, how the fuck do you ever know?
Well, so with that being said, I think this can be case dependent. Let's say someone like you loves getting into RPE nines. RPE stands for rate of perceived exertion. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard, if 1 is no effort, 10 is like as hard as you can fucking go.
Yeah. So like 10 would be like if someone points a gun at you and it's like one more rep, you can't do it.
Yeah. So, like for example, most of our clients, like your average soccer mom, is never going to go to a 10.
No.
So an average soccer mom may get away with doing a full body split 4 days a week because our RPEs stay low. But let's say someone like you who isn't going to do that, that may not work. And that's again where like a good coaching comes in, where you have the self-awareness to know and the emotional intelligence to understand who's in front of you. Like I had a guy that I coached, dude, and he thrived off of 5 to 6 day a week total body days.
Yeah.
Thrived. Absolutely loved it. Had crazy results. His recovery was on point, and we did total body 5 to 6 days.
Really? That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
But like I said, I still think a lot of people, like I've heard this by another one of the guys that I study, that basically if you can't get the job done in like 2 sets, you probably need to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Where like, because we've all had this happen where outside of the gym, like let's say a buddy says, will you help me move? Hey, will you come help me push my car out of the ditch? One moment you put so much effort in exertion, you are sore the next day. Like your buddy needs you to help you move a fridge, and you both pick up a fridge and he doesn't know how to carry a fridge. So you're handling most of the weight and you finally sit it down, and the next day you'll be sore.
Right.
From one activity, I would say, like it's in gym words, say 1 set and 1 rep. You move the fridge from the truck to the ground and you were sore.
Yep.
Because you took that one moment really far. That's why I think a lot of people are overusing volume, because they're not taking their stuff quite as far as they're capable of. So they're having to compensate and add 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 sets and copious amounts of volume because their actual intensified execution is not where it should be.
Right. Yeah, it's and see, and that's kind of one of the
this is a hard balance.
Yeah, well, and that's the cool thing about it is like I study like a lot of guys that are in like one camp where, you know, it's on the extreme of saying that like, you know, if you ever have an arm day, like, you know, you're gonna never grow. And then I have, you know, people on, you know, the other spectrum, you know, a lot of which are, you know, super well educated, been doing this for decades, like a lot of have PhDs or kinesiologists, and like and that's kind of the cool thing is that you know, it's an ever evolving thing, and, you know, and it, you know, changes day to day, depending on who you follow. You might believe one way, you know, and I think the kind of cool thing about this is, and I think we should probably back up and say too, like for most people doing anything,
we're literally just nerding out hardcore right now. That's all this is.
Yeah. So like literally doing anything will, because like, oh, okay. I mean, take some of my, you know, like, you know, someone that I'm about to, you know, give a huge shout out to, Mike, you know, he literally, so he's been doing like, you know, just full body stuff, and he's put on like, you know, 5, 6 inches on his chest. He's, you know, a quarter of an inch or 1.5 inches on his arms, and just like unbelievable progress. And he's just doing full body splits, you know, 4 or 5 times a week. And then other people, you know, have made similar progress doing, you know, like arm day, back day. So, you know, I think getting into like, and I think this is where like a lot of the research is, because like a lot of these guys that do this, you know, they work with like IFBB pros and like, you know, professional, you know, athletes and things like that. And you have to understand that like a lot of those people are kind of, you know, really pushing the limits where, you know, they've, you know, been doing this for a very long time at a very high level. So for them, increasing size is very, very tedious. And see, and then I think that's kind of where you have to get into the more like, okay, you know, the intricacies, like, you know, should you do an arm day? Should you do this? You know, the RPEs, you know, time under tension, like all of that stuff, like, you know, how much metabolic stress do you need in that? But, you know, like for your average person out there, you guys could probably put on a great deal of size, you know, doing 12 to 15 reps, you know, full body splits, doing an arm day. So like, you know, at the end of the day, like what's optimal a lot of the times doesn't matter if it's not fun for you.
Well, and I think a lot, just like anything else, I think a lot of this is the magic is found in what's in the middle. You have this person on this extreme saying this, you have this person on this extreme saying this, and they both have evidence.
Right.
And then you throw us in weird tendencies and enjoyment and sustainability in it. I think a lot of the magic is found in the middle. It's like even dieting. We see people that say, oh, if your calories are in check, that's all that matter. And food quality doesn't. Like, okay, well, if you eat only Pop-Tarts in a deficit, you'll lose weight. Yeah, okay. But that's not optimal. You would be hungry, you wouldn't sleep well, your digestion would be like, would you technically lose weight? Yes. But then you got the people on the other end of the spectrum saying, if it is not organic, grass-fed, and farm-raised, and single ingredient products,
sustainably caught.
yeah, you are not. That's it. Right. Versus like, okay, that's not it either, because calories still matter, quantity still matters, but right in the middle, there's some really cool shit that happens where like the majority of what you eat is better quality, more nutritious, whole foods, lots of plants, like all that stuff. But like donuts are still dope in moderation.
Right.
Like I think like anything else, the magic with this is found in the middle. Like let's say bro splits aren't optimal, but doing workouts you hate, like let's say you just don't like push days or pull days or whatever, that's not optimal. But in the middle, like there's magic.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I think to kind of like hit this home, like, so if I had someone come to me and, they're like, okay, Grant, I've been lifting for 10 years. I've put on, 50 pounds of muscle. And for the past year, I can't put on any size. I'd say, okay, tell me exactly what you've been doing for the past 10 years. And I guarantee you, those are the people that have been doing like the bro splits for 10 years, and that's worked for them up till that point. But that's when I would say, okay, well, it's probably time to
stimulus change.
Yeah, probably time to do a stimulus change. So then I would go back to doing. So it's really like case dependent.
That's what happened with Colin. Colin trained for 8 years intelligently, but then I started coaching him, and he had seen gains and more muscle stimulus and soreness than he had ever had in years. And he's like, how can I have gone and been consistent for 8 years? It's because we just tweaked little things. I made his form and execution better than it's ever been. I threw in less. He normally would do high volume, low stimulus, or low frequency. I upped the stimulus, dropped his volume.
Right.
And a lot of it has to do with that. Whereas what's that person been doing? What are they adapted to? Because then you got guys like, you want to talk about old school dudes, like you got guys like Dorian Yates, or these really well-known bodybuilders and these fitness people who, like Dorian Yates says, he did the same back workout for 11. I want to say he said 11 years.
It was something crazy.
It was something stupid. The exact same workout for 11 years, and motherfuckers got one of the best looking backs on the planet. So like a lot, and some of it is why fix what's not broken. Let's say the bro split works for you and you enjoy it better. There's merit, But I guess at the end of the day, if you have a problem and that problem needs solved, then we need to be a little more open-minded,
right?
But because right now, like my split that my coach has me on, some of the stuff is very different than what I've been used to.
Really?
So
yeah, and see, and I think that's kind of when, like, especially if you've been doing it for a given period of time, that's when you really start to see like, big changes, and I think that's why it's super important to, so like, I think Jared and I probably have, slightly different opinions on this, but as the viewer out there, I would never say to like, only go to Camp Grant or only go to Camp Jared, because,
Camp Jared has donuts.
4 years from now, chances are you might have to circle around. Yeah. Or, you might have to circle around and like try a different, style too. Because a lot of it's just, your body is an adaptation machine.
Sure.
You adapt to stressors placed on your body. So you need to frequently, well, not frequently, but you need to
appropriately.
Once a legitimate plateau occurs, then you need to induce different stressors.
Well, I would even argue, like, let's say, but dude, I mean, what if someone did like, let's say, even though our opinions are slightly different on this, I don't think they're wrong, either of them by any means. I just think they're very different. But like, I think something magical would happen if you did 6 to 8 weeks of Grant style, and then went to 6 to 8 weeks of Jared style, and then went back to 6 to 8 weeks of Grant style, and then all of a sudden you'd win fucking Mr. Olympia.
See, that's why that's why phasing and doing, because like, while Jared might like one style and I might like another, I would never, like, if I was working with someone for a period of time, like, you would never experience bro splits for like 5 years.
Never,
right?
never.
So, and I think that's one of the things why, shameless plug, you should get a coach because,
Hey,
we do all that stuff for you.
I'll let you know me.
No, really.
Yeah, no, for real, guys. That's the value in having someone in your corner that knows exactly what they're doing, is because you shouldn't have to do the thinking on this stuff. Most people are stuck because they're hoping, wondering, praying, freaking out, not sure and uncertain if what they're doing is working because they're doing all the nerdy work. But when you're not, but there's something crazy that happens when you have uncertainty. Execution is changed. If you're walking through and you're, let's say, holy fuck, did you guys hear that?
I just died right there.
Wow, that was loud. But that's the thing, is if you're uncertain in what you're doing is working, it will 100% affect your execution. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, like, think of it this way. I like to compare it to this. Imagine if you lived in a house with a thief. Like, I don't, hear me out. I'm the king of examples or in analogies. Imagine if you had someone that lived in your house that was a thief. You knew if there was a $20 bill sitting on this table and you turned your head, it would be gone. And you had to live in the house with a thief. Chances are your day-to-day would be changed. You probably wouldn't leave money sitting around. You're like, you'd be watching around the corners. You'd be like, is my TV going to be there when I get home? Like, you would be very cautious, and your day-to-day would be changed because you do not trust the person you're living with. Right?
Yeah.
So if you do not trust and believe in what you're doing is working, and you're in constant uncertainty about your program, it will affect your execution in the exact same fashion. Yeah. Whereas you are not going to take sets the way you should. You are not going to show up the way you want to show up. You are not going to be as motivated and fired up. You're not going to really buckle down when times get hard. You are like, I fucking hope this is working. I don't think it is, though. Like, you know what I mean? So that's why there's massive value in proximity is power. You get more proximal with people that make you level up. You are going to level up.
Well, and that's kind of one thing that I really like after kind of the dynamic that you and I have going on, like, I don't know if I would ever do like a non like group thing, you know what I mean? Where like it's just one person and they don't have the opportunity to bounce ideas back and forth, because I think that's like with anything, right? Like, you want the more people,
a tribe.
Yeah. Like, you want a tribe.
Huh. Ironic.
Or like, so I mean,
the tribe.
And that's why it's so cool. I think, like, because I've come to you on, hundreds of occasions already where like, hey, Jared, I've been doing it like this. What do you think? Mm-hmm. And like, I mean, number one, that benefits me. And then number two, that like benefits our clients like that much.
Truth. Well, and then on other, and it happens the whole opposite way. There'll be times where like, hey, Grant, you're smarter than me. What do you think of this? And it's the exact same thing. Because then we both have times we go, oh, I didn't think about it like that.
Right.
So that's why one of the best things you can ever hear someone say is, I could be wrong, but I don't know. And it's contextual.
I know we
unless it's calorie deficit, that's fucking right every single time.
We said that on like one. I remember that we said that on like one of the first episodes. We were like, if you've ever listened to someone who says the words "I don't know," you should stop listening to them.
Can I say that again?
Like, so if you follow someone and they've never said the phrase "I don't know,"
I thought you said they shouldn't if they've never said, or if they say "I don't know," and I'm like, I say "I don't know." I'm like,
fuck this guy.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's the thing, is there's so much up in the air. I had someone actually reach out. I didn't intentionally do. I don't normally do this. I had someone reach out and ask me political questions through Instagram.
Really?
Which is like, if you know me, I am like, I don't know, politics are right up there with pants shopping. I just don't enjoy it. Like, it's fucking terrible. But a person who's been a long-time follower of mine reached out and she's like, can I ask you a question? I'm like, go for it. Cause I'm an open book. And she's like, who'd you vote for? And I don't, first of all, get into politics. Number two, Instagram DM is not the fucking place to get into politics. But like, I figured let's have some fun. So, and I didn't get, and I basically said, well, and I told her, and we won't get into that right now because it's not time or the place, but I told her, and she's like, can I ask why do you like support this person's XYZ and policies and things like that? And I said, I'm trying to how to put this. Basically I answered her because first of all, Instagram DM is not the place to do this. And I basically said, but in my opinion, this person is the best for the job.
Mhm.
And she replied, she said, because you said your opinion, that is valuable to me. So I appreciate your answer.
Right.
It's the same thing. Is not that I'm like, I'm right, never wrong. It's like, no, based on the current evidence and what's in front of me and the way I believe, this is, in my opinion, I could be wrong. This is how it is. And that's how we interpret information. It's how we create biases. I know I just use a political example as an example, but like even all this, like with what we were talking about, what you know what happens when you study PhDs? They're all fucking right. You got this guy who says ABC is the way and has data to back it up. You get this guy that says XYZ is the best way and he has data to back it up. So who the fuck do you believe?
So I think this is a good way of looking at it. If the more and more you get to studying a certain thing or someone, if that doesn't make you more confused, then you probably should study someone else.
Truth. Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Yeah, no, I agree completely. We like nerded hard on this one, man. I haven't nerded out like this in a hot minute. I love it. Well, fuck, it's already been 45 minutes. Let's do some Q&A.
Yeah, let's do Q&A.
All right, fam. Oh, that's Grant on Instagram.
Aye.
Okay, so you want to just go tit for tat and go back and forth on these?
Sure.
Let's get some good ones. Okay. Let's get a good one. Getting out of bed. What the fuck does that mean?
Do it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so scared of calories. I feel huge and I've plateaued.
So scared. Well, so first of all, there's no need to be afraid of calories. They are your friend.
They're harmless.
Not your foe. And, I think importantly, there are, if you go back and listen to, some of our previous podcasts, there are a lot of ways to go about losing weight without tracking things on a food scale. So, like the big things, like you can do a lot of like rules for yourself where like, if you drink a soda, you have to drink, 2 times the amount in water. Or, if you have a standard plate, half of it should be like, fruits, vegetables. A fourth of it should be protein, and then a fourth of it should be carbs. So like there are a lot of ways to go dieting without actually tracking calories if calories make you like this or you just don't like them.
Right. Well, also this, because I want to chime in on this one, plays a role too. Whereas I think the whole fitness industry needs to take a chill pill. Like being totally serious. I think people get too hot and bothered and worked up about all this. And I think that everyone needs to take a step back and a good fucking deep breath. Like the fact that oh my gosh, calories is like, I'm freaking out, this ketosis, like, whoa. Take a step back. Let's take your emotions, throw them out the window, and let's actually think logically about this. Because if something gets you that emotional, and I get it, we're deep emotional and we're emotional people and we get deep rooted bullshit. But like, if you notice yourself getting scared and anxious and take a step back, like take a chill pill and know that this doesn't have to be this complicated and hard.
If I had to take a guess with that question, like people that are afraid of calories, so to speak, if I had to take a guess, what that probably is like their favorite food. They're like, fuck.
Yeah.
That's 500 calories. That's a quarter of my,
Sure.
And and when you look like that way, that's just not the proper way to do it. Like you can make your favorite foods fit into any diet.
Yeah. I mean,
and I think that most of the time when people are like afraid of calories, it's because they like, see like, oh shit, I can no longer eat a bag of chips because it's got, 260 calories and things like that.
Do you think a lot of this is people are going to get mad? Do you think it's a cop out?
Yeah.
People are like, I'm scared of it, so I don't want to mess with it. It's like, no, usually hard things are best when we face them.
Oh yeah.
And actually work through problems, not just like, this sucks, I'm not going to do it, and turn your head. I think a lot of this stuff is a cop out because people don't want to embrace it.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly.
All right, I'll do one. Here, you pick me one. These are back and forth, not up and down their screenshots. I can hear my dogs in the other room going, what you thinking?
Well, so there's a cool, let me understand this. I don't think I understand what she's saying there.
Welcome to the world of getting Q&As. Calories. Okay. Can you elaborate? These are basically problems that people are facing. That was the Q&A I threw out
Well,
there.
so I think I have an idea what this girl is saying. And so her question was, do you gain more muscles if you're eating more food / proteins after leg day, even if you're in a total calorie deficit? So
it's a timing question.
yeah, I think if I understand that correctly, it's a timing thing.
That's her question. Okay.
And I think she might even be talking about like kind of how I first took that was like, let's say that you want to put on like mass on like your legs.
Mhm.
Is it better to like save food for that day? That's kind of how I took that.
So there's a couple things. Number one, if you're in a deficit, you're not in a super optimal position to be putting on copious amounts of tissue in a deficit as a whole. But do I think it can be important to not like a magic anabolic window, but like, do I think there's merit to having food sometime after a workout? Yes, just because glycogen is going to be depleted and things like that. I don't think it's going to be a game changer, but I think I don't think that you're going to see any game changers there, whether you have like a magic anabolic shake after your workout or.
That might have actually been, now that I'm thinking about that might have been a hint at, is the anabolic window a real thing?
Oh, no, anabolic window is bullshit.
that might be what.
So here's the thing. Oh, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, for years it's been a thing where people are like anabolic window, where somehow your body magically knows it's been done with the workout, so you have 5 minutes and 17 seconds to drink a protein shake.
Yeah.
Well, otherwise your whole workout was wasted. Like I literally had a guy say that. He's like, "Oh no, dude, your body knows when you're done working out. So if you don't get a protein shake within 30 minutes in your anabolic window, you're gonna wither away to nothing."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this guy must be right." Otherwise it's garbage.
Right.
Do I think there is merit into having food sometime after a workout? Yes. But do I think there's anything magical about 30 minutes? No.
Now, there is some, I'll chime in here a little bit. So there is some research out there that suggests that like, more frequent protein meals throughout the day.
Well, from a protein synthesis standpoint.
Can optimize protein synthesis. Like, is it enough to make or break you? No. But if you're looking at it from like the optimal standpoint, right. I think there is some merit in that. But yeah, it is a good idea to eat after.
But like the whole anabolic window nonsense is complete shit.
Like for that person, make sure that your protein's in check. Other than that, like if you want to get into the nitty gritty, you can do a lot of things with that. But as long as your protein's in check.
Because we'll put it this way. Your daily numbers are not in check, but your post-workout, like let's say you have the perfect post-workout anabolic window shake. Let's say you have 40 grams of protein and 80 grams of carbs after your leg day's over, but that is all the food you're eating. Your priorities are out of whack,
right.
All right, let's do another one. Which is better for a full body workout? 1 hour workout 3 times a week, 30-minute workouts 6 times a week.
So at the end of the day, really doesn't matter. I would personally 3 times a week. I don't know, like total body in 30 minutes is kind of rough.
Yeah.
But I think
5-minute workouts 18 times a day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think that you're probably going to get more bang for your buck doing, 3 1-hour sessions as opposed to 5 30 or 6 30 minutes.
I would agree. But also, if one definitely says I would be more happy with that than not, because most people I know would rather go to the gym, because you're saying once you're there, you're there. They would rather go 3. If you're going to be there, might as well get a full hour in and do it times and show up 6 times.
Yeah, I mean, both work, but I would personally lean on the other one. This is a good one. I'm craving sweets like crazy. Any tips to help me stop?
Eat sweets. Eat sweets in moderation, and don't wait till that craving gets on a borderline 11 on a scale of 1 to 10. Most people wait till they get like on a scale of 1. Like you very rarely get a craving that's instantly to a 12. Most people get cravings when it's a 2. So handle it with a 2 response. If you're like, man, I'm craving Snickers bars, go to the dollar store and buy yourself a 200-calorie Snickers bar and eat it. And all of a sudden your craving is gone. Versus if you're like, no, I'm going to be good. It's not my cheat day. And then the next couple of days and like, oh my gosh, I want a Snickers bar so fucking bad. I could just like peel the skin off my own face to get a Snickers bar. And then it's like, no, it'll be good. It's not my cheat day. And then it's Saturday and you're like, motherfucker, I will kill children to have a Snickers bar. Then you happen to go like eat the big family-sized Halloween bag full of Snickers bars.
But you might get a cool commercial that's like, you're not yourself when you're hungry. Oh, and that made me think of something too. Oh God, what was I about to just ask you? Oh, what's your what do you think about like, because I get a lot of people, and I think that this ultimately creates a fucking horrible relationship with food where they quote unquote treat themselves.
Garbage.
So like elaborate on that a little bit. So like what I'm talking about here is like, let's say like I don't know, like you do good at like on a test or something, so you treat yourself with like a pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Or then that's just an example, but like what do you think about like treating yourself?
So a couple things. Number one, you're not a fucking dog. You're not a dog. Okay, you don't. If you want a pizza like every day, probably isn't going to work very well. But like have a slice of pizza every day if that makes you happy. Whatever. I think a lot of times, like I think there's merit to celebrating. You graduate college. You guys want to go out to dinner? Yay! But I think a lot of people who are like, no, I want to treat myself. I think they're in a different place mentally about it. It's not like, oh no, Grant just graduated college, so like let's go celebrate. I turned 28 and a bunch of people came over. Like that's different versus like, I've been doing really good on my diet. I'm going to get an extra dessert at dinner.
If you're a person out there that, they need to do that, then there's probably something
too rigid.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably something wrong with your diet too, because there should never be a reason that you're so deprived that you feel like you need to have something to be good. And I mean, and if you do, that just creates in the long run, that will create a horrible food relationship.
One of the best examples I've ever heard is a lot of times with all the people in the optimal world, the optimal word is used a lot. People, I think, forget they're like people. I'll talk about making a donut work in my diet, and a troller's like, oh no, Jared, that's going to slow down this. That's going to do this. And it's going to fuck with this. But like, understand, like a lot of the stuff that you see is talking about like if we were in a lab.
Mm-hmm.
If I lived in a lab with exercise equipment and I was had monitors on me and everything was in a lab, but our lives are not in a lab. We are normal fucking people. Most people have kids, have a job or two, have to get work overtime, might not sleep well because they're stressed, wants to go celebrate their 6-year-old's birthday, and you better not turn down your 6-year-old's birthday cake. You want to take your kids Halloween trick or treating, and your daughter hands you a Reese cup and says, "Daddy, will you have a Reese cup with me?" Like, we're not in a lab. We are normal people with not ideal circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people try to treat this like we are rats in a lab versus real people who need balance.
And that's one thing that I really dislike about a lot of like the really big like fitness influencers is, they post videos of like, the most hardcore workout in the world, and they post pictures of, their foods, and there's never, a carb in sight. It's all just like, green and pretty, lots of colors, and that's a good thing. But I think that really creates a false picture for people. You can look really good, and you can probably have, whatever goal it is that you have, and still be a normal person.
Yeah. Like I said, most people take things to an extreme. They're either like normal person as fuck and have pizza and beer every meal every day and are fat, or they act like they live in a lab and everything's perfect. So
right.
You tired there, buddy?
Dude, I'm really tired.
All right, let's do one more each. Grant, how do you get rid of belly fat?
So basically what you need to do, cream, it's what's the brand?
I'm pretty sure go take a shit, then pull whatever's in the toilet out and rub it all over yourself.
No, there's a cream that they sell. You can buy it for like $9.99 on Amazon, and if you use code link Grant15, you get 15%.
You realize there's a handful of people going, "Oh fuck!"
Oh shit!
Like,
Grant15. No, so
it's called stomach rub sexy.
Yeah. So to lose belly fat, it's just like losing fat here, like losing ear fat, neck fat. It just happens.
Ear fat a thing?
I don't know.
I've never seen fat ears.
I don't think I have either. Well, I take that back. Neck fat. And yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna look that up. I mean, there's surely fat cells in your ears, right?
I don't know. I've seen like fat. I've seen people store like fat in weird places, but
I don't
anyway.
No, you just have to
Fuck,
be
man.
in a calorie deficit and then play the time game.
Oh, yeah.
And just wait. There's no magical way. Like you can do 1 million sit-ups. It's not gonna. There's no such thing as spot reduction.
Nope. All right, pick one more for me, then we'll call it a night. You can scroll side to side if you want to.
Oh, cool.
There's some interesting ones.
Well, so this is probably a good one. It's kind of more a statement than anything, but I know a lot of people struggle with this nighttime snacking.
I love this one. All right, fam, you ready for this? All right, so I have a few things to say. Number one, struggle with not nighttime snacking, but having a routine. The more of a routine you can have, the better you're going to be on autopilot. So if you go to bed at 11:30 every night, now between 11:30 and 4 a.m., you're not going to snack because you're in bed. Like having like an actual bedtime, you go to bed in a routine at nighttime, it is going to help. But here's the thing. If you enjoy eating at night, eat at night. Just put the calories there. Like one of the biggest things I see people do wrong is they hate breakfast and they love eating late at night. And they feel like they have to eat breakfast, so they'll have a 400 calorie breakfast and then they'll starve themselves at night. Versus like if you eat breakfast, take those 400 calories, throw it at 10 o'clock at night. Nighttime, just because it's nighttime doesn't mean you're storing fat. Like you don't have an enzyme that magically checks out and says, nope, clocking out, we're done. Like it doesn't work like that. There's a cheesy saying I used to say, if your heart is still beating, you should still be eating. Where like you could eat all the way up till your head hits the pillow. It doesn't matter. It comes down to if you're in a deficit or not. So if you love, assuming you're trying to burn fat, that is. But if you love eating at night, eat at night. Just save calories for it. If you towards the end of the day you run out of calories, you can have some low calorie foods on deck like berries and popcorn and fudge pops and salad and chicken breast. Like another one, you could actually have a meal at night. Like if you have a meal that has a lot of protein and a lot of plants in it, you're going to feel full as fuck. Yeah. So for some reason lately, I just messaged my coach about this and I prepared for it. I think I told you this. I have been waking up in the middle of the night with, like I said, cravings don't go from, very rarely do they ever hit a 10 out of nowhere. They usually start at like a 2 and creep their way up. I've been waking up at 3 a.m. with, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm at like a 20. I'm like the kind of hungry that like logic goes out the window hungry. And I have no idea why. Now, we did make a calorie adjustment. My calories are lower. And I used to smash most, because I wouldn't prepare, I would have most of my food in the evening. Like I would sit down at 9 o'clock at night and have 14 ounces of chicken. And now I space my meals out because eating 14 ounces of chicken at night does not make me feel good. I feel bloated and I feel like I just force fed myself in my work. I was tired throughout the day because I didn't have fuel. So I've been spreading my meals out just because it makes me feel better and my calories got dropped. So I'm guessing that's why. But like, I'm telling you, like I would be so hungry the past 2 nights
that you've literally like woken.
I've literally woken up at 3 a.m.
Damn, I don't think I've ever had that.
It's terrible. Like, and it's not like just roll back over.
It's like hunger pains.
It's like, dude, I want to literally break into Taco Bell. Like I would literally go and smash the window and get in there.
That
yeah.
Bad, huh?
So crazy. What I did when I went to the store today, I bought foods that would fit that. Because here's the thing, you guys know more than I would, or just as much as I would, that kind of shit will derail you. A couple of times of that is enough because to be completely honest, I smashed a fuck ton of pretzels and some cheesecake last night. Because guess what was in front of me? Pretzels and cheesecake. And guess what? I felt so fucking better after I was done eating. But guess what? That wasn't accounted for and I went over my calories. So what I did now is I have foods ready.
Did you beat yourself up over it?
No. Okay. I literally got back on track today. Like nothing happened. Like literally just totally cool.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah. So what happened? But because here's the thing though, I'm noticing a pattern. It happened 2 nights in a row. And I'm like, fuck, man, what's the deal? So first of all, I messaged my support system. I messaged my coach and said, dude, what's up with this? Because I've never experienced this before. He's got some thoughts. But now I went ahead when I went to the store today, I got foods ready to go in case that happens. So like I got a fuck ton of strawberries and blueberries in my fridge right now because it's snacky food. That'll taste good. But you know how hard it is to eat like 300 calories worth of berries? Mm-hmm. It's fucking hard. So, so if you know that's going to happen, you can prepare for it. So, hoodle.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, fam.
Shall
Thank
we conclude
you
it?
once again for tuning in to the weekly episode of Dieting and Donuts with Jared Hamilton and
Grant 15.
Grant 15 for the promo code. All right, guys. We'll talk to you next week. Love you. See ya.
Peace. Dude, I am so tired.
I know, dude.